Today for math, we're going to look at fractions, fractions of a whole and fractions of a group, and pretty much challenge our belief in what we've been doing up to this point. So up until now, when we talked about fractions and we ordered fractions and which fraction was larger and which fraction was smaller, and I'm just going to start with the most basic, like 1/2 and 1/4, up to this point, we always knew that 1/2 was greater than 1/4. Because remember, the bigger the denominator, it means it was divided into more parts. So we were always led to believe that, 1/2 is more than 1/4. I want you to think about that when I have all these pens. My pens, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I have 12 pens. So 12 pens, and then I have 8 markers. So half of my pens or half of my markers? Half of my pens are, I have 12 markers. 1/2 of 12 are 6. So half of these would be 6. I have 8. Half of 8 are 4. So this half is 4, and this half is 12, or 6. So a half isn't always a half. This is half of a group. Half of a group is different than half of a whole. What we first started with, half of a whole, we always talked about fraction bars or circles, and this was our fraction bar. We broke it into 2 equal pieces, and there was a half. I have the same size bar over here, and now I'm divided it into 4 pieces. First I'll go half and then 1/4, and it's one of the 4 equal pieces. Sure, 1/2 is greater than 1/4. What about if I had 1/2 of this tomato, and I had 1/4 of this tomato? Would 1/2 be more than 1/4? Because 1/2 is greater than 1/4. But look at my wholes. My wholes are the exact same size. Are my whole tomatoes the same size? No, they're not. So if I ate half of this tomato, and then I ate half of the other tomato, they wouldn't be the same size. So again, it depends on the size of the whole. Half a cup of orange juice. Half a cup of orange juice. Are my halves the same? No, this half is greater than this half. So halves aren't equal in this case because the size of my whole. So we have to be looking at the size of our whole or the size of our group. So unless our whole is exactly the same, then our fractional pieces aren't going to be the same. If I had, let's say those tiny little bite-sized candy bars. Let's say here's one of those little Nestle Crunch candy bars. And then I got the regular size one. That's about this big. And I ate half of this one, half of that candy bar, and I ate half of the regular size candy bar. Are both of those halves the same? They're not. because I don't have the same size piece. Going back to my markers and my pens. If I have, let's see, my Pet Wars book, I'm going to read half of this book. And I'm going to read half of How to Steal a Dog. Are both halves going to be the same? Pet Wars has 262 pages. So half of that would be 131. And this book has 168 pages. So half of that would be 84. So are both of these halves the same? This is Pet Wars. And this is How to Steal a Dog. They're both half of the book, but look at how many are in the whole. There's 262 pages in the whole. There's 168 in the whole. So in this case, half of Pet Wars is bigger than half of How to Steal a Dog. So halves aren't always the same. I wonder if that would be the same if I was talking about a third of something. Let's say I had 12 kids in this group and 24 kids in this group. So a third of each of those groups. 12, so 1/3 of 12 equals, that means I take 12 and I divide it into 3 equal parts. 1/3 of 12 is 4. Okay, so 24, 1/3 of 24 would be taking 24, oops, I wrote 1/2. 1/3 of 24 would be taking 24 and putting it into 3 equal groups. And that's 8. So 1/3 of this group is only 4, and 1/3 of this group is 8. So in this case, is 1/3 equivalent? No, it's not. So 1/3 of 12 kids is less than 1/3 of 24 kids, but we're still talking about thirds. So with fractions, there are no absolutes unless your group is the same size or your whole is the same size. Just like fractions are equal parts of a whole or a group. These are groups, and this would be a whole. So keep that in mind when we're talking about fractions. Is 1/2 always more than 1/4?